Welcome to Raging Bullets, a comics fan podcast, Season 2, Episode 9. We tackle The Flash from 2003, Issues 1 through 6, Part 2 of 2.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant covers. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what they're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding!
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensational sensei of the whatnot, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, as I announced in the beginning, we're going to be doing part 2 of our 2-part discussion of the 2023 series of The Flash with issues 4 through 6. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have DC vs. Vampires, World War V, issue 106. 40% off, only $2.99, plus multiple really cool-looking variant covers. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, I want to shout out something that's a bit personal to us. It's a favorite series of the show, too. The Secret 6 Omnibus hardcover, Volume 1 by Gail Simone. $125, regularly 50% off, only $62.50. In a very selfish way, I want to shout out the fact that in Volume 3, issue number 8, our names are on tombstones, which is just one of the coolest things in the world. But I want to say, taking that piece out of it, admitting that's a selfish plug, this story, this series, everything in Secret 6, there's very few things out there that I can say have been the absolute perfect series. This is one of them. This is absolutely, if it is not my favorite series of all time, it is one of them. It's on the short list. What I love about it is the action. I love the seamless blend of humor, character development. You start rooting for characters that you're like, really? These are the characters I'm rallying behind right now? I will say when this book was being published, each month when the issue would come out, it was my absolute first read. It was my favorite book to read. It just hit every mark. There was something that always made me smile. There was great drama, big time story arcs that were blending into each other and building over time. This is something that if you missed this, do yourself a favor and check it out. The Omnibus is the best way to do it. It's just such a great volume. It's a special book, so I wanted to make sure to shout that one out. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the books we're discovering in today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Without further ado, let's jump back into our discussion about The Flash.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
Continuing our discussion this episode, we're going to start with The Flash Issue 4, The Gallery. The writer is Cy Spurrier. Mike Deodato Jr. on art. Colorist is Trish Mulvihill. Letterer is Hassan Otsmane-Elhaou. The cover by Mike Deodato Jr. and Trish Mulvihill. Variant covers by Mike Deodato Jr. and Trish Mulvihill. Franny, Javier Rodriguez, and Matt Taylor. The editor is Chris Rosa, and the group editor is Paul Kaminsky. This has been a really terrific storyline because we talked about this a lot last episode. It does what I love about Flash storytelling. It starts to build long-form stories. There's stuff going on here that is not going to be resolved in this arc. This arc is an introductory arc. It's going to have a beginning, middle, and a closure. But it's introducing just a lot of elements and also addressing the larger Flash family. I'm not just talking about Wally's family. I'm talking about other Flash characters And I think the best Flash storytellings are the ones that build that piece. You and I used to do episodes around Team Arrow. We really enjoyed that run where Ollie had the team family, and we're starting to get some of that dynamic brought back into the Green Arrow book. This is exactly what I've always loved about the Flash. You've got that central character. Yeah, Wally's the lead. I mean, that's the thing. But there is an appropriate amount of screen time to the others. You get to know more about Wally that way. You get to know more about them, and this feels like a living world. I love this opening bit with him and Irie, where we're seeing what's going on with Wally. Wally is being hit on a lot of levels with things that are happening both in and out of costume. Most importantly, though, what is going on when he's in costume is insurmountable. He's dealing with some very, very severe odds right now. There's only so much that a person can take, and it is having an impact on his home life. And some of that is being, kind of pushed along by other sources. I really like Irie. As a character, she's grown over time. She's gradually maturing. It's everything we love about sidekicks in the Bat books and things like that, being able to see these characters grow and develop. This is different because it's a family. And it's weird to say that it's a more functional family because of the stuff that's currently facing them, but they are. They're a family who's going through normal things. Some of the things that are going on with them are very, very normal. As people grow, as people change, as they become their own person, their interactions change. They start to question themselves. They start to question each other. And sometimes they say things, sometimes they feel things that aren't really representative of what's going on. But I like that Irie's becoming more mature, and we're seeing her, as she's maturing, becoming a voice of reason, becoming responsible, and just having the objective viewpoint that sometimes a child will have, a kid will have, because of the fact that they're just smart and they've got it together and they're learning, and they can just see things objectively because they're not weighed down by some of what the adult's going through. I really like how real this feels. Okay. And it feels like very real world. This writing is phenomenal on this. The artwork, the shadow scenes where this is a home where, you know that they have an electric bill and they have lights. They can be turning them on. But Dad is sitting there in the dark contemplating things. That's real, right? We've done that. This is something where I'm connecting to everything in this, remembering times when I've done this. Some of this I've done recently. This is the real world. And it's building that connection point with you and the characters that you're reading before you really throw things at them is a great way to build storytelling, to build readership, to build, I'm loyal to this because I care about these people. I feel like I'm journeying through their life with them, and I want to see more. This is exactly how you open up an issue.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm loving, just like you, I'm nodding my head along with how awesome she is. She's just a great character, and they're doing a great character development for her and her brother, both. To be honest, I can't even take just them. They're doing a great job with developing the Flash family, the Flash concept, the Flash universe, all of the different Flashes. All of them are getting their say in this. They're getting their parts. They're getting their exposure. This, is really how to write a team dynamic. This is a team book now, and they're doing it up where you've got your central character, but you got to give all the time to everybody else. And Irie's power levels, she's going to exceed her daddy if she hasn't already, and I love that. It's like, you see her connection to the Speed Force is so much different than Wally's is. Even though Wally is supposed to be one of the best with the connection with the Speed Force. He's the one who's the most in tune with the Speed Force. She's going to surpass him, and you're already seeing signs of that. And one of the things I loved about this opening sequence, and I agree with you, how it's, you see the shadow and you're really seeing him, just contemplate on it and laminate on it and all that. And then when he just vanishes and Irie looks and seeing what he's dealing with, these weren't just thinking, he was beating himself up over his failures. Every one of these images that's a failure. And so you can tell now it's not just thinking about what's going on. He's beating himself up over the failures that he did, that he hasn't done. And I'm like, oh, that is just absolutely brilliant. I love that.
He's also becoming less and less present with his family in the ways that they need him to be. His pain and things like that and what he's going through, he needs to be sharing more. He's not. He's internalizing. I've been guilty of this in my life. You know, I think sometimes you've got to start getting things out. You've got to start talking. You've got to start including people. Because in some cases, they're feeling the same things. Or they're going through the same experiences. Or they just need to know what's going on with you so they know how to respond, how to react, how to be a part of that. I really liked how it's building, not just what's going on with him and Linda, Irie's, because she didn't refer to him as vanished, his disappearing. Her father's quite simply absent.
Yeah.
That word, the word choice there, the dialogue choice of absent, it sets a tone for where this family's at right now. And it's something that I really like that. I like that this is something the family's going to have to address, a way that Wally's going to have to grow, a way they're going to have to adapt and figure out how do we navigate all of this considering that piece. And what does this look like? It's in a piece where you're building long-form storytelling here. His new powers and that type of thing, becoming this mystery, is something I really like. They've done this very well over the years with Wally. It's one of the reasons that eventually I want us to go back to things like terminal velocity and stuff like that, and gradually, touch on some of the classic stories as well. Just because, some people out there thinking we've got more DC stuff to do. We got a ton. There's new and old. I mean, we're going to be jumping between both. There's reasons to visit some of the Wally stories and see that the best stories are the ones where getting to know the Speed Force, getting to know what they can do with the Speed Force, getting to know these increased powers. This is something that's been a part of Flash storytelling for a long, long time. And this feels like home when you've got that. The beauty is, Irie's going back and seeing all these pictures. She's showing her intelligence and what she's learning from Dad, but also kind of like any student, like any person with skills, she's able to analyze it maybe with a fresh pair of eyes, and she sees something right away with Chad. Yeah. And is starting to react to that piece because she's a hero. This is kind of who she is at her core. And it kicks into just a really cool sequence with her and another one of our Flash family members, which I'm really glad to see her. This is just a great way to develop this story. This world that he keeps going to, that is this like garden that he almost doesn't want to leave, is starting to he's being manipulated here, right? I mean, is that part of what's going on? Because he doesn't want to leave this place usually when he comes here and starts forgetting himself. Is that a deliberate action?
See, at times I'm saying yes, at times I'm thinking no.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the brilliant mysteries when they do completely unfold this. That's when I want to know: is it completely? Because and as you look at it, like the opening sequence, the first time he was there, it was kind of limited. Now this time, it's expanding, and it keeps expanding. There's wasteland all around him, and every time he goes there, if you look at the background, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's growing. So it's like it isn't. I don't think it's. Well, my initial gut is saying this is not one of the bad guys manipulating him. My initial gut is saying he's tapping into something beyond the Speed Force. He's tapping into something beyond, he's doing some weird interdimensional timey-wimey Speed Force-y thing here. This is brand new concept, a brand new construction based on Wally able to do what he does. I think that is, one of the neat things about this, but I also do love the fact that we're both thinking the same thing. Mm-hmm. Could this just be a trap? Yeah. Is this just an elaborate trap? And I love that about this because either answer is a solid answer. Either one you could argue flat out to you're blue in the face, and we're not going to know until the story completely unfolds. I think that's the brilliant part of this, that And it's been the brilliant part of this whole story going on, where we keep getting notes and this and that, and where the rogues are getting super powered, and now there's influence on outside of the Flash while he's the Flash. Attacks on Linda, attacks on the kids. What's going on? And there's all these outside forces, and this could just be another one of those attack on the Flash.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely brilliant in the storytelling.
It's funny, as I'm reading this, it's taking me back to some of my favorite Flash stories where Wally, as his powers gradually started to increase, the idea was that Barry in Crisis got pulled into the Speed Force. Wally got pulled into the Speed Force during a storyline, and I'm not going to go crazy into it, but what it established in that storyline is that Linda's his tether. Having that love, brings him back and tethers him to, when he's being pulled to the farthest. I'm wondering if what's going on with him in the gallery is part of his tether isn't as strong as it was before. And that's something that his family needs, he needs to reconnect with that family, make that family grow in order to maintain that tether. I don't know, because sometimes he gets lost in this place. And I wonder what's going on there. And I wonder if the key to maybe controlling this sidestepping and is the family connection, is being able to tap into that to be able to pull himself back. I don't know.
I love that theory.
Yeah.
I love that theory, to be honest with you. I think that's, because you look at it, it's his connection to his family is dwindling quickly.
Yeah.
With the fact that, and again, there's a lot of outside influence affecting people, but it is the fact that, the kids are now going, hey, we got to do other stuff because Dad's too busy. Dad's too busy, so we got to do stuff. You got Thunderheart racing off to investigate Chad. Later on in this issue and the next issue, you got Jay doing different stuff, without his dad being around, without his dad knowing he's doing it, because, he needs to do it because, his dad's busy. His dad's busy with big cosmic event stuff, so I'll take care of it. I got to step up, and I love, the fact that they're doing that story. And again, it's pushing the family apart. So there's going to become a moment when the family needs to step up, and it's that gut check time when the family needs to say, "No, we are the Flash."
This Irie's journey that we got going on here, and we get to see Jesse Quick. I like how she calls him Thunderheart. Jesse Quick and going with the Liberty Bell storyline in honor of her mother. That title is something that I really dig. I just enjoy seeing her back into the storyline and having her have a role. I actually do like when they modernize and adjust characters' costumes. It just feels like something that you would do over time, where they're, while keeping the theme there, you don't want to completely lose them. But I actually quite like Jessie's costume. I've always just kind of digged her look, and they've kept enough of it in this modernization of it that it feels classic while at the same time having just a little bit of a today flair to it. Yeah. That it works for me. But the interactions between the two are great, because it's great to see Irie being able to kind of open up as a hero, being able to share what's going on with the investigation with somebody who will listen. Because Jessie's kind of been where she's been at. She's also a legacy hero. She had her dad that she used to team up with. So is more willing, I think, to treat Irie with kind of what Irie doesn't maybe know that she's looking for, or consciously, because the comfort level of Irie being able to kind of, this is what I think is going on, and it broadcasts what you're saying earlier. This is a girl who is very, very quickly growing in her talent and her understanding of the Speed Force, and offering something to the conversation that is a fresh perspective. And seeing her and Jesse interact here, I just thought was really, really strong. I love the relationship, and it makes sense that it's Jesse, because who better to understand Irie and where Irie's at this stage in her life than someone who's been through it herself.
Yeah. It's who's better to accept her as a hero than Jesse. I think this is a right team up for this situation.
Yeah.
Jesse makes sense that she's not just going to be like, okay, kid, go home. That wouldn't be her style at all. And I love the fact that, they're not, she doesn't look at Irie as a sidekick either. They're both there investigating this, and I love that. We get to see them working together. We get to see them doing their thing. And the moments when Irie steps up and does stuff beyond what Jesse can do is awesome. But, and again, it's I love how they're taking these characters, what they're doing with this. And again, the initial, where you got Chad's girlfriend and you see what happened to Chad, why he was super speed. He's got some weirdo device that he was shooting up. So his girlfriend shoots herself up with it, and she takes off, within a string of lightning. So you're like, so once again, adding, where did they get that? Because these are two homeless kids living in an abandoned library. Where do they get this speed stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And that unfolding mystery is great because we got that mystery going on while we got the mystery of what's going on with Wally here. It's really kind of a seduction of him in this realm, as far as him being pulled into this place and kind of finding this serenity. And you can see how the place looks visually peaceful. And it being kind of a celebration of everything Flash, and then just kind of, but not having to do anything here except rest. We've sidestepped into a place where I can just not be bogged. We saw him so bogged down at the beginning. This is not the guy that was bogged down in these moments. This is a man who's having a chance to just let go of everything, almost to an extreme extent, which actually I would argue to an extreme extent, which is part of the problem here.
And ties back to a couple issues ago where he got caught in that stasis field. I mean, he was just floating, in space, and he's like, I'm just peaceful. I'm comfortable. And he was just at complete peace and rest in that stasis field, until they snatched him out of it, But it ties back to his need to just relax. And even Jesse and Irie had that cool conversation where they're talking about Barry, because Irie's like, hey, what's going on? Is he okay? He's like, you sometimes it gets to you. You need to wear it, and, because Barry went from being the Flash to being part of the team, and just everything that's going on in his life, he just needs to rest. But also, we know there's outside attack going on Barry. That's causing him to do this stuff. That's causing him to, kind of tweak with his brain. So it's kind of neat that the heroes are like, oh, Barry just needs to rest. He'll be okay. It just sometimes the pressure gets to, there's a lot of pressure being a Flash, and they all understand the pressure of being a Flash. So they're like, oh, just give it a time. They're not looking at, no, there's an attack going on. Somebody's actually targeting you guys at home and at work.
What's interesting with the place that he's at, it's that these statues are not static. No. They are actually echoes and reflections of what's happening in the real world. So, Irie's statue is gradually shifting to what's happening to Irie in the real world. Wally forgetting that, and this being that's there, like almost being shocked, that don't you remember your daughter? Does she really not know that? Is she trying to help? Is she benevolent? Like, at times I think she's benevolent, and then I guess this is me being conditioned to wait for the other shoe to drop. She seems very benevolent, and I've usually found that in comics when somebody like who's an unknown quantity seems benevolent, they're somehow not.
Yeah, they're really the big bad. Yeah.
But
I know I think that's the brilliance of how they're writing this.
Yeah.
That we don't know yet. We don't know. If you take it at face value, this is neither good nor evil. This is just an existence. And this concept, this construct, or whatever you want to call her, is just a presence there. It's just, wherever here is, this is that presence that's there. And they're not evil, they're not good, they're just there. And it's one of those kind of guide type of things where this is on Wally's creation. Wally is creating this. This is based off of Wally, not any outside force. So Wally has the ultimate power here if he chooses to act. But I think that is kind of a neat thing. Now, one of the things I do want to just bring up, I love how when Jesse and Irie are going up against the girlfriend, Chad's girlfriend, and Irie is able to shift from intangent to tangent.
Yeah.
And snatch the thing out of her pocket. The power level right there. All of their flashes have to focus and get all speed up and to go tangent. She just went in tangent instantly, and then halfway through came untangent and pulled the thing out of her pocket. That, again, as I said, the power levels this little kid has is going to be astronomical when she's really grown up. And I love that Jess is like, wait, that's incredible. How did you do that? She's completely just flabbergasted by it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I think one of the things that I like is it's kind of like an athlete, right? Where different athletes can be equally skilled, or you can see proteges or things like that, who are able to do things just a little bit differently. You can use the basketball stars as an example, right? Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, right? Yes, they're both terrific basketball players, but if you were to compare them side by side, watching video of them both, the play style is just different. I mean, they're different athletes. We're seeing that with Irie, where, yes, she's tapping into the same power set, and I use that with quotes around it, but she naturally is playing with it in a different way than her father's going to, because her father was raised by Barry and went through all this with Barry. Irie's kind of at that age where she's able to be a little bit more experimental with it in a very different way. And I really like seeing this. We've got this amazing new sidestepping thing that Wally's doing, but I'm with you. That sequence with her was cool. Yeah. And they're really selling me on, I just want to pay more attention to what's going on with Irie. And both kids, actually, because we'll talk about her brother as we keep going on in this storyline. There's cool, awesome things to talk about with him, but I really liked that, and I liked seeing it through Jesse Quick's eyes. That part was really, really awesome because it just added another layer of familiarity with it. That this is someone she trusts. This is someone who is becoming quickly a mentor to her. Really, I like that part, that Jesse's being more of a mentor to her than her dad right now. That's not actually a knock on Wally. It's more of a compliment to the world they live in, that there are other siblings, extended family members who are able to just be a part of that whole piece that fleshes out these characters and would lend to Irie being a little bit different. Jessie is her way of being raised. She wasn't raised by Barry. She wasn't raised by Wally. She was raised by her dad. And there's just a different approach to how they handle speed than Barry and Wally do. And she would have something to offer that's unique. And I like seeing these two teamed up together because it just adds more to the dynamic.
It's something I also want to add to that. She was raised by her dad and her mom. There is definitely mom influence in the investigative reporter in her. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also very, that's something that comes through very strongly. Because this is a kid who grew up in a superhero family, wondering, hey, am I going to get powers? Am I going to get powers? Am I going to continue on the family legacy? To the point where it's yay for her, but really hard on her brother. And I think that, again, is something that's really, they're really starting to dive into how much, being the hero means to her, how much being part of this team means to her. It's not just about, hey, this is, probably when, first started off, oh, this is so cool. Now she's starting to see the responsibility. She's dealt with things that no kid should deal with, and a lot of adults can't handle, and she's handling. And I love how, when you get some of these moments when she's thinking like, hey, we can just follow the vibrations that power gives out and we can track them that way. And just like, can we do that? I don't know. Let's find out. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Just, again, this kid is beyond her years. And part of it is her upbringing. Part of it is just her general nature. Part of it is just the family dynamic she grew up in. I love this. I love seeing this kind of stuff playing out. And again, the balance shifting back and forth between the garden statue and reality, seeing the things change when, Wally either realizes that, Irie's in trouble, that stuff's starting to flash to him, no pun intended. I love how we see kind of like the father coming out in Wally.
One of the pieces, too, with Irie, and I think you misunderstood what I was saying. Her relationship with Jesse Quick is unique because of Jesse's parents, too.
Oh.
Because Jesse was raised by Johnny Quick and Liberty Bell, not Barry. Their path to speed, Johnny Quick's, they had this formula that they had to recite. It used to be I don't think that she has to do that anymore, but they used to have to do this formula in order to access the speed. It was just a different way of doing it. Their speed background was different. What that brings to the table, actually nodding yes to everything you were saying about Linda being a part of that. But if you take a look, this team up with Jesse is something that they're very familiar with each other. So they interact as often as possible in a superhero world, right? It's clearly some time has passed since they've seen each other, but the familiarity and comfort is there. These are two people that are very happy to be around each other and interact. So she's getting big sister mentored by this girl who was a legacy. Both of her parents were members of the JSA, Infinity, those type of organizations. So seeing, Jesse and Johnny Quick, and Liberty Bell's influence helping to raise Irie as well adds a whole other layer to everything that you were saying, which is true. And that makes her kind of a unique experience as well. I agree with you in the way the pacing of this with the shifting between the two different areas. What's going on in the real world and what's going on where Wally is. I liked that Irie is picking up on some of this stuff in a very unique way. The shifting stature where you see Irie's distress actually showing up in the other world was something that was really, really cool. I really enjoyed that sequence. She's almost, the statue shifting, she's almost banging on that world.
Yeah.
Was awesome. I just really liked that dynamic. It's an example of shifting art. Doctor Who does this thing called the Weeping Angels, where the angels you don't fluidly see them move. It's this shift from scene to scene where they're getting gradually closer, and as they get closer, their motion shifts. It's clear that they have been gradually moving in that direction, but you don't see it as fluid movement. And I think these statues have that same sort of effect. I would love to see this done as a TV or a film or something like that. I would love for there eventually be another Flash series, down the road where we get that. We've seen multiple Superman TV series. I'd love to see them attempt another Flash series again. It was successful. People like the character. It worked as a weekly series. I would love to see that again. And I don't know if we're going to get ever. It's scary to say that. I don't know that we're ever going to get a 22 episode. Are we going to get a 22 episode superhero show again? In that long form storytelling. But that's where you do stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it in these little tiny series that they do now. And I'm not knocking them. I love the streaming series that are out there. But the Flash series that we had just ended, I would love to see at some point in time them relaunch a series and kind of play around with some stories like this. There's so many great stories to tell, and I'd love to see more Flash on television.
Oh God, yeah, me too. And I love how you talked about how with her statue is getting panicky. Mm-hmm. I love the choice that they made. They show her panicking before they show her in real life doing it.
Yes.
So again, it's kind of like a foreshadowing on what's happening, or the timey-wimey kind of stuff of where Barry's at. And then finally, again, you get to Mirror Master, super beefed up, has a trap that's laid out for a speedster, and it catches Irie. And as he's going, he just chucks a grenade, going to destroy everything, and would have killed her if not for Wally, using the garden, as a gateway into it. It's not just it's not just an image, but it's an actual gateway. So he could jump into any space and time and any of the speedsters in there. So I was like, oh, that again is a major power step up. And that's why part of me is like, it's not a trap, not a villain trap, is where it's one of those are the moments where it makes me think this is not a villain trap, because Wally it can channel it, and he is in actually control of it. But I'm still not 100% convinced of that.
And it's almost like time is unfolding differently when you're in there.
Yeah.
Like, you're able to see things, sometimes what's happening ahead, sometimes time slowed down around you. It's a very intriguing place. I like that there's a danger to it. And what I mean is, I think you're right in how you're analyzing. I hope you're right, actually, because I like the place, and I want to see more from it, so I'm hoping it's more benevolent than I think it is. I'm naturally waiting for the other shoe to drop, but where I think it's intriguing is there's a lot to explore as far as what this place actually is. And can it be a source of bringing peace to the Speed Force? Settling the Speed Force? Wally being able to understand and navigate this? Can it somehow help repair the turmoil? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens. Wally having this moment where he's sitting here, where no, I'm not mad, Jesse, not at her anyway, or you. I should have been here. This is a dad right now who is a husband, and he's struggling with life in general. He's got a full-time job with Terrific that, yes, bleeds over into his job as Flash, but it's still, there's elements of that's adding another layer onto what he does, right? And he's trying to be a parent. And he's trying to be a husband. And they've got a baby, which, it's a known quantity is once you have a baby adds, it's not just another kid. It's a very different kind of kid with a very different kind of need. And it's also weighing a lot on him and this family. That's true in normal circumstances. I really, really loved everything about this. The interesting part is Irie with that folded part of glass that she kept behind her, and she was holding behind her. She's not sharing that with Dad, right?
No, she's not. That's the device that the one girl jacked herself up with.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. So, she's not sharing that with Dad.
I wonder why.
Well, my guess is she's like, Dad's got too much on his plate right now. I'm not going to bog him down with any additional stuff.
Yeah.
She's 100% thinking, Dad's got too much on his plate right now. I can't. I got this.
It was a really, really good ending, and I was mistakenly when she was talking about the folded man, at least trying to understand what was going on with that folded piece. I was somehow relating it to that. You're right. It's absolutely 1,000% the device. I just liked the fact that there's this thing that she's not telling Irie. I mean, Irie's not telling her dad. And it was such an interesting piece when they've had traditionally this open relationship of sharing. And, she's been somebody who I think Dad's keyed on. Yeah. Because of the fact that the two of them are so similar, which is interesting from a father and daughter. But I think you're right in the sense that there's something that she's recognizing, like Dad's got too much on his plate. There's also, I think, that part of her that's like, this is my investigation. We all get like that, right? At a certain point in time where you need to kind of be taking the lead on something. It's got to be yours. You kind of want that piece.
Yes.
And you don't want to let that go. So, I don't know. It was a very, very good ending to that issue, and with a lot to think about. I'm looking at the cover for issue 5, and this is part of I'm like of two minds, right? It looks like that hand, which, is from that realm, could be benevolent or could be, is that causing part of it? I'm leaning a lot more, especially after your commentary on it. I'm leaning a lot more to that whatever's going on in that world, that creature, whatever she is benevolent. It seems to be the case, at least. So I'm sort of leaning that way. This is a dynamic cover, though. I really like this cover a lot.
And it's a nice, good creep factor going on because of the multiple eyeballs and tentacles and just the horror aspect of it. So it's kind of cool.
Tell me this isn't like reading like an episodic TV show. Because you flip the page and we're now with Jay. I love this kid. I like that the kid feels different. I like that his interactions with his family, both in power set, but also his interaction with the world. He's got speaking about creepy things, he's got a creepy thing going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, as far as the genetic lottery, as far as having powers, he's got things bursting out of his arms. It's like these creepy little creatures that are down there. And I mean, that part is just like really awesome. His internal commentary in particular was really welcome at this point. This series is doing a great job of character development, where I'm getting more and more intrigued by the side stories as much as the main story that's going on. Actually, you would argue that these things are all converging, sure. But I really like seeing him teleport. Like his initial teleporting to Dad, we're finding out more layers to that. But he's kind of stalking the situation, which says a lot about where he's at right now. He's not popping up and immediately saying, "Hey, Dad, I'm here, and there's this crazy guy or something that was following me." And nobody's willing to tell Dad a whole lot right now because they recognize he's stretched very thin. His commentary about Dad's mask, that when he is Wally West, just straight up Wally West, that's his mask, is really interesting because it's a kid's perception. You know, it's very common for us to talk about who is Batman, where is Bruce Wayne in that whole scenario, and I've always made the argument that the person you see with Alfred, you know, in the comics is the true person. You know, he's dropped the Batman persona and we're the extreme Batman persona, but he also has dropped the mask of Bruce Wayne, and that's when we get to see the real person the most, is when he's with Alfred. But I think with Wally, it's interesting to see from his kid's commentary that his kid's like, when he's not wearing the Flash outfit, that's his mask.
Yeah.
and there's something interesting to say about that when you're a kid and you're perceiving your father that way. And him sitting there saying that he feels that what his father says about him, you know, he's feeling like the square peg in the round hole in this family. His dad says he's proud of him, but he doesn't know that he believes him. And that's an interesting sort of piece to feel when you're a kid. It's growing up, I had years like this. I'm connected with this kid deeply. Not saying I didn't have any powers bursting out of my arm or things like that, but there were years where I felt like I didn't fit in. I love when comics do this kind of stuff because I think, you know, with both kids and this new child that's going to be there, there's an opportunity for multiple connecting points for people to connect with these characters, relate to these characters, and connect and interact with the world. I really like this because it feels very real. And some of it connects with my childhood and how I felt about my father. Not saying I was right to. And I'm not saying Jay was right to. But when you're at that stage of your life where your confidence in yourself isn't there, and you have trouble believing what others are saying to you, that is cool because it's deep and it's very well written. The writer on this is really tapping into some real heady, cool, real world stuff.
Yeah, and with me, I'm loving how Jay is looking at all his powers in the absolute most negative way possible.
Yes.
You know, he's like, I've got strength I can't control, and then I've got this teleport thing. Whenever I'm startled, you know, it's real confidence build. Like the universe saying, "You stink. Stay close to a responsible adult." Not, "Hey, it's cool. You can teleport." You know, he's looking at it on the whole negative side. And again, the little creepy things that explode from him. Well, okay, I can see why you would go, "What the heck is this?" But I do love how in his inner dialogue, it's always just he's got the negative side of the powers. His sister's got the cool one. He got the leftovers kind of thing. And I do love looking at, you know, seeing it from his eyes because we later learn that, no, Jay, you got some really cool powers here. You just got to learn how to use them. And you may be the one to save the universe, you know, if we can channel those right. And I love just how we get this initial opening. And everything you said, I really also want to agree with how he talks about his father wearing his regular person mask. You know, now to me, I don't think he sees Wally West as the mask. completely, and the Flash is the real him. I think he sees his father is always, in a game, always hiding who he really is. When he's the Flash, he's got his Flash mask on. When he's a regular person, he's got his Wally West mask on. It's like Jay doesn't know who the real dad is. He doesn't know who the real man is. Like, we argue, about when is Bruce Wayne actually, who's the real personality, and I agree with you on his interactions with Alfred. That was the real Bruce Wayne. What we're seeing from Jay, I'm reading it as he doesn't think his dad has a real personality. He doesn't have, he's either the Flash mask or he's the Wally West mask. There is no real him, and that's the thing.
Watch what he says later. I think you're missing the dialogue point that he says later when Dad's in the Flash costume. He doesn't say that at all. When he's in the Flash costume, he actually points out that that's who Dad really is. We'll talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, and let's talk about when we get there, because you may disagree with me. So let's get to that point. I think let's take a look at what's really going on here. We actually get to that dialogue point, because right here he's saying this is his regular person mask, and maybe let's actually take a look at the dialogue, because I want to make sure I'm right in what I'm saying too. So let's put a asterisk on. Let's come back to this, because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and let's talk about that piece, because we're going to get there. But I think there's something to discuss as far as how he views his father, and I think we do need to revisit in this particular issue, because I think it's something that's really, really intriguing. This glowing, like, whatever it is that's there, as far as this thing, this gateway that's opening up, it's really, really interesting, the experiments that are going on here, and this cloning of, they find in the boxes this clone of the Ultra Humanite's head, and I'm like, this is a very different creepy level. I actually loved Jay's reaction when he's like looking at that box and sees that.
Yeah.
That would be something that what are you looking at, Tommy? That would make me kind of go, it's time to teleport back. I don't care about what's waiting for me on the other side. It can't be worse than this. And I would definitely do the same thing. But I liked Jay, the entire conversation with Mr. Terrific and Wally. Jay was a fly on the wall, but never revealed himself. I also liked that Dad knew that he'd been following along all day long. There's something to be said about, Wally's a hero. He's a seasoned hero. I'd actually be really disappointed if Jay was able to sneak up on him so easily.
Yeah. Well, and also it is a connection to the Speed Force kind of thing. And we learn, from the inspector that it's not teleporting. He's entangled to the conduits of the Speed Force. He's connected to that. So if he's got that connection to it, then they should have the connection back. The
question here is, who is this inspector? I feel like this inspector is going to be revealed to be somebody.
I have a theory.
Okay, go ahead. Well, go ahead with what your theory is.
My theory is this is Adult J.
I was kind of wondering that myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. That's why when you were saying it, I'm like, all right, let's go with this one. I'm like, there's a part of me that's thinking that too. Because of the fact that, or if it's not, it's somebody that knows the family intimately,
or this is Jay's kid. Those are the two things I'm throwing out in my head: Adult Jay or Jay's kid,
or the little brother,
or Wade. Yeah, this could be definitely Wade.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening with this. But I'm actually more. I'm taking out the other pieces. If you were to ask me what my top list is, I would start right away with it being Jay. It's definitely somebody that understands that, like, saying too much right now could cause a major problem.
Yes.
It's really intriguing. The situation with Grodd is an interesting one, because Jay pops into there and gets to see what's going on with Grodd, gets to watch the whole thing as it's going on. Grodd recognizes that Jay's there and is ready to sacrifice Jay for the purpose of, what'll it do to the Flash? And what Grodd is driven by what Grodd is driven by. Jay is really interesting, because Jay has this power set where he's running through his head some pretty dark things that he could do to Grodd.
Yeah.
And all of them are legit. I like that Jay just kind of goes, hey, I got a question. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
Which I love that Grodd's like intrigued by this, saying that nobody's asked me that, and he's sharing this story, and through sharing it, it almost calms him, at least for now, strategically. Grodd's playing a strategic move here, and we do see it at the end of next issue. There's some reasons why.
Yeah.
But Grodd's playing an interesting game here that I love Grodd. I love the concept of Grodd. I think when Grodd is well written, you get some interesting storylines with him. I'm really, really enjoying how they're using him here because we've kicked him up, which I've always felt like Grodd was kicked up. But you have to eventually, at a certain point in time, when enough heroes beat this guy, you got to do something to up the game, and I think that's happening here. Jay having a part here is interesting. The piece where he's saying this, and he's doing it deliberately, right? But I must, because nothing I do, not the wounds I suffer, nor the bargains I strike, none of it is too great a price to build a world of choices for my children. Such should be the priority of any responsible father. That was done purposefully. And this strategy that's playing here is really, really intriguing what's going on. That was one where pulling back and not doing what he was going to do dealt a stronger blow, I think, than if he'd actually killed Jay.
Oh, big time, yeah. And again, we've seen that with Grodd laying out, again, he's the one who threw out, breakups are hard to do, in the last issue. My condolences, Flash. Breakups. And again, I still think that he was talking about him and Linda. Now we've got this dig on what, that Wally's not a good father. And I love the look on Wally's face as he's saying it, because Wally's feeling that and Wally's thinking that now. So, and again, it's what is Grodd's actual end game here? It's not just, this is not the traditional villainy, wah ha ha ha. He's got a much deeper game he's playing here. And I love the fact that we've got that coming from this villain. And again, we got it from the Rogues. There's something going on with the Rogues. They're all working together, and it's not even the traditional Rogues working together. It's all of Flash Rogues coming together. They're not just coming in together for a score, for a steal. They're doing something else. They got some other grand plan getting laid out, and I love how they're all doing what they can together.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that is really interesting here. I'm trying to look at, because he's covered with that helmet, trying to see if there's any clues for that Inspector, and I don't know that there are. Inspector Pilgrim, science detective. I don't know. I want to know more about Inspector Pilgrim.
Oh, big time. Me too.
I'm hoping this isn't some character I should already know. Because when I heard Inspector Pilgrim, I'm like sitting here, I'm like, that sounds like it's almost like a name I should know on some level, and it just may be that it's close enough to something that I remember in the past that it's kind of connecting that way. But I did greatly like the interaction between the two. I want him to be a good guy. I really do. Because I like his interactions with Jay here, and he, at least on paper, he seems like he's on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
I hope that he's there trying to do good. I would imagine, I guess the part of me that's hoping he's trying to do good is, I guess, wanting to trust also Mr. Terrific's judgment, because Mr. Terrific's been working with this guy.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping all of that kind of goes together to show that this is somebody who actually is on the side of good, but has some future knowledge, maybe, I'm guessing, comes from the future. That is the reason why he's reacting the way that he is. I like the costume, though. It's kind of a cool...
Yes.
Inspector Pilgrim's got a cool look.
Oh, definitely got a cool look, and I keep in my head. I keep going da 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 da. Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, it's DC's Inspector Gadget, but a lot more competent, it seems.
Yes, much more competent.
Yeah, I like that he's given Jay some tips though on how to use his powers, so he knows what Jay's powers can do. That's the piece where I'm with you. Either it is Jay, or it is somebody that knows Jay really well that is able to sit there and start giving him tips. And how much of this, like, really in reality, how much of this should he be saying?
Well, here's the line. It's incredible, and who knows what else you haven't tried yet. Yeah. Actually, I do know, but not allowed to tell the rules. That right there was one of the lines that made me go, is that Jay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because of he's got such a connection with Jay. There's such a moment. And the last I can't remember which issue it was, but one of the, maybe issue 2 or 3 or something, he was standing outside the home.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was standing outside there, he was chewing bubble gum. And he was blowing a bubble. And I'm like, it's such a kid thing to do. And it's like, you see him kind of sometime how he interacts and how he reacts with them. It's not, it's not like, professional adult one. There's like a childlike wonder to this guy. At certain times, certain interactions with different people. And those are always the things that makes me think Jay. But again, I'm not 100% certain on Jay. Part of me is thinking maybe Jay's kid. And that's where I'm wondering, that's the thing. But again, you never know. And I think that's wonderful. That's, again, I know we're going to find out who this guy is. I know we're going. They're not going to just dangle this one out there and not tell us, because I will get very angry if they did that to me. I don't know when it's coming down the pipeline, but we're going to find out who this guy is, and I'm looking forward to that.
Part of me thinks it's Wade because of it being the baby, and there's so much unknown about the baby versus introducing and yet another kid, meaning Jay's kid. But I say that just more in blank speculation versus any kind of depth backing any of what I'm saying. I'm just really loving it. I like the flashes to the different areas with his sister, and then being able to travel to Barry, being able to travel home to his brother. Just these little jumps that are going on, him being able to see those pieces. I'm wondering if his ability to be able to jump towards speedsters isn't going to play off for his not wanting to be a superhero, isn't going to play off in a big way in upcoming story arcs, where we've got this kid who does have the ability to be able to jump where speedsters are, especially with what's looming. I'm really intrigued and interested to see more of how Jay manifests, not even just in the next story arc, but in many story arcs to come. What his role is going to be and who Jay's ultimately going to become. Because I do believe him when he says he doesn't, want to be a superhero. It kind of lends itself to wanting to be an inspector or something like that, maybe.
Exactly. And part of me wonders if they're just throwing all this out there so we start thinking that, and it's somebody else.
True.
That's why I'm like, I think it's him, but I'm not going to hang my hat on that and put 100% go all in on that. That's why there's still some question in my head that it may not be Jay, just because there's so many teases for it, And again, it's like when we see somebody who's nice and benevolent in a comic book, usually we think, no, they're evil. Same thing with this, where if it looks so much like it's going to be so and so, maybe it can't be that person because they make it too obvious. And I love how the nice tease there. And one of the things when he was jumping around, I love that when he jumps to Wade, because he doesn't jump to Mom, he jumps to Wade, sees Mom crying as she's taking care of Wade.
Yeah.
Because again, we know there's that constant attack going on all the family members,
right,
including Linda. And it's the attack on Linda that's really messing with Linda and her connection to the family, connection to Wally, connection to the Wade. Connection to the kids even. So I love that, we've got this kind of, you have that little bit there. And, and again, Barry with all his headaches, because, Barry's got an attack going on him. It's, kind of neat. And I love, again, how Ira is the one who's noticed it. Because, again, she's got such a strong connection to the Speed Force. She picked up on, on her brother being there for a blink of an eye.
The Wally and Impulse sequence was really, really good because of Max and what's going on there. It also did lead me to another layer, though, because Bart's talking about, Wally's talking about the danger dissolving in the Speed Force and those type of pieces. I started thinking to myself, could Jay, and especially when I was first reading this, could Jay teleport to where Max is with his newfound powers? Yes, Max is, I'm assuming, depowered because of the fact that he gave, the last of his current Speed Force energy to Wally to get Wally out of there, but he's still a speedster. So I guess I'm wondering how do Jay's powers work? Could he teleport to Max if he so chose? And I think that's where you start playing around with storylines, in your head and going, what are other paths? How could this go? I just kept wondering if that may be a thing and Jay just doesn't know he can do it yet or hasn't tried, or, there's a lot to be said layer-wise for that. I love that this is a story that makes me want to play around with the characters and what they could be doing if they were working together off of I mean, Dad would never approve that, but, because Jay can't take anybody with him, right? As of yet? I'm saying, I'm putting the asterisk on there, as of yet,
right?
As far as we know. I really like this because it, you and I have done a lot of discussions about things like X-Men, and I think the Dark Phoenix story that we did, and even that X-Men run in general, did a lot of characters that we're gradually getting to know along the way, getting to know their power set along the way. Kitty Pryde, for example, getting to know what she could do along that way. As far as phasing and being able to phase objects, being able to phase people and things like that, were things that Kitty was later able to do. I think, this is Jay's an example of, he's a character with just a lot of potential. Irie's the same thing. You were referencing the fact that we learned something new about her in this arc. And I think that that's fun when you get to gradually grow with the characters. You know what? I don't need that all spelled out right away. There's fun in discovery, and that's something that's interesting. The other piece that I think that I was connecting with Dark Phoenix, and just because we just read it so recently, was the fact that Jean was hearing a lot of things in her head that people were saying that they wouldn't. Sometimes they're passing thoughts. We all have them, right? In moments of weakness, even the people that we care about the most, respect the most. There's those moments of doubt that you have. You can be in a crabby mood and you think something. Somebody can be behaving in a certain way, and your initial gut reaction is sometimes one of judgment or fear or even scolding, in those pieces. But then when you have a chance to process, which is what we all do, factor in everything you know about the person and life in general and where you were at the time. If you had a bad day, you tend to approach things from the perspective of somebody who's had a bad day. So you tend to be negative. And imagine having to hear that piece. But this family's going through that right now, right? Where they're, to your point, they're being messed with. But forget them being messed with piece. Take that out of that for a second. Look at their life right now. They got a lot going on. And when that happens, you tend to say things. I do. Listen, I've been married to my wife for, my wife and I have been together now almost 30 years. You live with somebody all the time. I did it with my parents, with my brother, with my wife. That's you tend to, you have good days and you have bad days. You have things that you say on the impulse, kind of an intriguing piece, that you don't mean. And when you come back to it and you have a chance to rationally take a look at something, then you actually say what you mean because you've had a chance to put some thought into where you're actually at. This family is going through saying some things and thinking some things that are based on the information that they have on hand, not the full picture. I love that. And it's where I do connect that with Dark Phoenix in a lot of ways, where Jean was hearing thoughts from people. And you don't have the chance to let them process those thoughts. It's where being a telepath sounds like a very cool power. There's a ton of responsibility to that. And I can see how that would massively change relationships that you have because you're picking up stray thoughts that aren't fully formed a lot of times and aren't informed a lot of times. And I feel like this story has a lot of that in more verbal dialogue that's getting out there. And the things we're learning behind the scenes of these families. And I think it's right to connect it with a story of that caliber because this is an example of depth-filled storytelling. This is great character development. And you mentioned Grant Morrison. I'm connecting it to and nodding with everything you were saying there. But I think what I really like about this story is you've got that element going on here of that kind of heady stuff with some just terrific accessible character development over there where it's clear that Cy Spurrier has a lot of influences to the writing style and has kind of crafted it into something of his own that you can clearly pick out influences that are here. And I really, really enjoy the way that this storyline is unfolding and that it's some of the best of what I like in comics.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, and the Wally and Jay dialogue that gets started, then gets interrupted And I love how, once again, it's that, Wally's putting on that fake face. He's like, come on, nothing's the fastest man alive can't handle. And even before he can finish the words handle, he's like, Jay's just continuing, hey, I'm a distraction. With everything else going on, I get sad. I'm kind of awkward in my own skill. I have all these big feelings, and I screw up a ton, and he just keeps going and going. And finally, Wally's like, hey, stop. And I love when he sits there and he does a great dad moment. It's like, you're my son. I will never not be proud of you. You're my top priority. And then Jay's thinking, yeah, me and everyone else. And I love that moment. Because once again, we see he's just about to tell Wally his big news, and then the world explodes again. And something else happens. And something pulls him away. And I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly, it's that type of thing that I'm just really, really enjoying about this. There's so much to love about this. This developing of new villains, the stillness that, shows up here again, and we get to see them. How are you ranking them? Are you ranking them as villains? Are they more like the Watcher to you? You know what I'm talking about? That kind of like, and the Monitors, where it's hard to kind of put a label on them. Obviously what they're doing right now is having a villainous effect, but the stillness is, trying to do everything they can to make sure that this event happens. Are they good? Are they bad? What do you think they are? How are you viewing them in this? Because I guess I'm asking the question, and it's tipping my hat. I don't know that I have a good. I guess earlier on in the story, I was kind of like, these might be kind of good guys, or at least benevolent creatures. Now it's almost like they're neutral, or maybe neutral chaotic, to use some like D&D references in there. But where are you at? Do you have theories on this?
I say they're 100% pure neutral.
Okay.
Using D&D references, 100% pure neutral. There's no good, no evil, no chaos, no lawful, just pure neutral. And I think that, comparing them to, like, the Watcher is a very good, I think, comparison. These are some supreme beings, connected to some form of cosmic power. Not exactly sure which one. We have a lot of different massive cosmic powers out there. They're not connected to the Speed Force, but they are familiar and understand the concept of the Speed Force better than anybody else could. To me, it's not even new gods, level. They're above new gods. I would, kind of like, I don't know. I'm not 100% certain on who they are, what they are, but I really don't think they're good or evil. I think they're literally exactly what they're saying. They're going through, they're observing, they're watching, and their interactions they've got some other end game in their mind, but it's like the Flashes can't understand what they're trying to do.
And they're not like the Watcher in the sense that the Watcher observed and chronicled and things like that, and very, very, very rarely interacted. Very rarely. I mean, it was kind of the nature of not what the Watchers would do. It actually, the Watcher was chastised for not intervening when he could by heroes at times. The stillness is, though. I mean, like, in the sense that they're stopping them from, like, they need to see what this is going to lure. The beacon has been set. We must see what it lures. So it's almost like a science experiment for them that has to, like the Petri dish, that has to play out, which is intriguing. I'm with you more on the neutral point, but where I was tipping towards the neutral chaotic, I'm like, well, but they're doing stuff, and what they're doing, I know what you're saying, and I think we're really aligned on this piece. I don't know that they're doing it to do harm, but they're doing it for the sake of science. But they also do not care what chaotic effect it has. The end result of this event taking place, this luring taking place, is more important than what it'll cause. And I don't know how you properly label that. So I think we're seeing it exactly the same. It's I think I'm having a more awkward stumbling around how to label it. But it's fun talking about this. This is a cool like a character development. Even if we're both completely wrong, and there's some clear lines defined as time goes on, through storytelling. I feel like the way that this is developing right now is cool. What they did to Jay was like,
he blew up real good.
Oh yes, he did, and that led Wally. Like, did they do that to get the reaction out of Wally? Because I would say no, because it ruined their experiment, didn't it?
Well, in a way, yes, but in a way, no. If you look, when Wally is pure rage and just about to burn the world down, they're like, observe the rage ends of the brain wall. At last, he is the killing stroke, the end of math, the fire to summon the archangel. That was because when they first came in, they talked about the great archangel. So that's where I'm like, because I throw out the pure neutral, but then I'm like, you read something like that, and you're like, maybe not. Maybe this was a whole manipulation to get Wally to do whatever. Maybe because they're looking at that, the mask, the rainbow mask or the rainbow butterfly or whatever that thing is, as a way to summon the great archangel, and that's what they're looking at, and they don't want it to disrupt that, so this could have been a trick on their part to get it, and it would have worked if Jay hadn't been able to pull himself back together.
Yeah. The fact where Jay finally tells Wally that he doesn't want to be a hero, I like that there's that conversation going on with him and the inspector.
Yeah.
In those moments, and the inspector's basically saying to him, I can't tell you how I know, but I know. He couldn't love you more if he tried. That piece is the one more so saying, if it's not him, boy, is it somebody close. Because to know those kind of intimate details would have to be something. It does lend itself to be that could be an interesting career path for Jay. I don't know. I don't know. These are what's also interesting is look what's in his hand during that conversation. One of Jay's little critters.
Yeah. And he's picking him up. He's able to interact with him without an issue.
Yeah.
He's been interacting with them without an issue.
I feel like that's a major clue.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, and but again, that's you got to sit there and you always like, sometimes in the comics, when you've got these major clues and you got these major things, maybe it's too easy. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's something else. And I'm like,
Sometimes,
I love this.
You know what? Sometimes, though, that's creative giving you a wink. And so, it's okay to do that sometimes. Hey, if you're paying attention, you're observing, wink. It's here. It's here. I'm telling you. Without telling you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's done deliberately for the purpose of kind of including you in. I don't know. I mean, we'll ultimately see if that's the case. But I really, what I'm finding is, for as dark as the story is, it's making me smile too, which is really strange because they're screwing with the family in a big way, which normally brings me down. Just in the sense that you sometimes bring everyone down before you bring them back up again. I feel like there's a healthy balance of reality and real life and growth that's making you smile throughout the way. And I think, some of the stuff they're doing with Irie, some of the stuff that they're doing with Jay, some of the stuff that's going on surrounding this, Liberty Bell, and those interactions there's a healthy balance of things that make you feel hopeful and make it feel so Flash-like that it's really a run that is making me feel at home that I'm in the Flash universe and everything I love about the Flash universe. That danger doesn't really disrupt.
Right.
It's an interesting sort of piece. The horror of these covers, you kind of mentioned it earlier. This is another great example of this, Attack of the Archangels. I like the play on word too, for that piece. But I absolutely love the covers that Deodato is putting together for this book, and the whole creative team. By the way, when I do that, I'm aware that I'm guilty of only giving credit to the penciler and inker as well, and not recognizing the color work. This is a book that really enjoys a strong creative art team that just really understands what it's trying to deliver. And this is beautiful. It's a beautiful cover. It adds a sense of fear. What makes it's engaging. It makes you want to turn the page. I love the logo too. We didn't really talk about this. The Flash logo with Wally like kind of in the center of the A there is a really sharp logo.
Yeah.
It's got a classic feel while feeling a little bit modern. I love that stuff, and it just really stands out. We don't always talk about covers as much on the show. Sometimes it's just an organic thing where it stands out to you. There's times where there's covers I wish after our conversation, I'm like, I wish I'd shouted out that cover. This particular series in particular, like, demanded I say something about the covers. And that's something different. As I was reading these last 3 issues in particular, the covers just particularly hit me as being something that I wanted to just say something about, because they're really strong, and I'm really the art experience with this overall, and it's everybody that's involved in the artwork are just really kicking it. This is a beautiful, beautiful book.
Oh, big time, and I'm very guilty in not noticing covers, to be honest with you, especially since I'm reading so much electronically. I jump right into the issue and I just start going. When I was buying, there was just paper out there. Covers for me had a little bit more of a, pop of, oh, what's that? And they're still just as important, still just part of the story, still part of, the overall enjoyment. So I'm glad we're actually spending a little time looking at it. And this whole series so far has been very horror focused, and it's, again, I'm not a horror comic kind of guy or a horror movie kind of guy, but this is, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of a neat look to it. And we talked about it last episode where we said how the Flash colors have to pop, but this one still has a pop, but it's got the overshadow, that little bit of gray to it, and I love, not gray, but a dark shadowy kind of thing. It's that, last one I used, every, silver lining has a touch of gray. That's really what we're seeing in this, and that goes really along with the mental state of everybody in the Flash family right now. They all are having their doubts. They're all having their negative influences on them. That feeling of just, being, beaten down, or just the, oh, well, kind of mindset. And I love that we're getting, the art is reflecting what the story is. Because, again, color is the musical score. When you get a really cool movie that's at that great musical score that really rocks it, that's what the color is on a comic book. It gives us that, that emotional response. It gives us that energy. So I'm very happy with this full creative team on this book, because the writing is stellar. I'm so loving this writing, but you can't have amazing writing. You can't have an amazing book if you don't have writing and writing and art, working together. And that's pencils, inks, and color, letters, all of them coming together saying, okay, we've got to tell a story. And they're all firing on all cylinders here. I'm very happy with this series right now.
This is really interesting, the way that this is opening, because I feel some of what Linda's feeling underneath, where she's feeling, or acknowledging love, acknowledging those feelings, but she can't reach out the way she wants to, is, I think, at the core, she loves this man. He's doing all the right things, except he doesn't, and she doesn't either, fully understand what's happening to her. He's acknowledging that there's something here, and he has to do something about it. And I really appreciate the fact that this is important at this stage of the story, to have him do something. Because there comes a point in time where Wally's going to become unlikable. It's like, dude, you're completely oblivious to what's going on around you. I'm starting to lose faith in you and who you are. He did. In spite of everything that's going on around him right now, he's like, this is something Linda and I used to connect with. She, she's a reporter. She likes to be in the middle of the story. We team up together, and these are pieces that we get. He's trying to make those connections. It's also exposing, though, in greater detail, some of the problems that are there that can be manipulated. Because you have to have problems to manipulate problems. And I really like how this is doing it. I also appreciated the use of narrative boxes for Linda's. They're almost cold. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just the plain white narrative box with her thoughts. That was a great choice. You know, with it not being with some fancy art piece or something like that, it just being straight up black and white narrative. That added like a tone to this that was really intriguing, and it was an interesting storytelling and art. You know, the whole layout of these pages, I think, artistically are really smart with the way that they're using paneling and just playing around with these geometric shapes and having this overall look. It's a very sharp looking book, but it definitely is responsive to the needs of the story. And this is my favorite kind of comic when you get this kind of stuff going on.
And it's kind of like she's writing a story, not thinking stuff.
Yes.
You know, and so she's completely emotionally separated from the environment, from this. She's just a reporter reporting the facts. And I love how, you know, lays out that, you know, despite, you know, being hopelessly in love with him, she feels almost nothing.
Right.
And I love that. I'm like, oh, that is awesome. That right there is like a just definitive statement on what is going on in her. It's not that she's like, you know, I don't love him anymore. She still feels love, but she's not feeling anything. It's like, you know, an emotional drain on her. And, you know, we've seen it building and building through these past, you know, 6 issues, you know, where you have these little moments where you just see the sadness in her. It's like a depression, but we know it's something other than a depression. It's a mental attack on her. And I love that. Bringing
Barry in at this time was perfect. And it was almost like by design.
Yeah.
Because Barry's popping back in, and he's got issues going on, and Wally's not been there. And I don't know that Barry and Wally are kind of in the same place. Barry has not been revealing anything to anybody either, which is, you know, something that's called like, Barry, you're not telling anybody. Iris was calling him out on this in earlier issues. So, you know, this is something where this isn't Wally's fault. You can't respond to something when that isn't out on the table. And he's been trying to live up the legacy of the Flash. Wally's very honest in this issue about the fact that I'm trying to live up your legacy, which is the easiest thing in the world to do. And there's some honesty and truth in just letting go and explaining some of those pieces. Yeah, it can come off as an excuse, but there's truth to it as well. I was glad to see Barry, for us to start feeling the manipulation that's going on with him, the escalation of what is going on in this story here. Barry is an important factor in the Flashverse, and I didn't want Barry completely gone. Bringing Barry back and being able to have him be a part of this storyline, and hopefully as things go forward, being able to, you know, willing that Barry's going to be okay at the end of this, you know, having Barry organic part as needed is a piece. But I like how Barry's kind of like, yeah, I've been kind of off dealing with these other activities while you've been moving on, you know, going forth with legacy and all that. And Barry's almost coming off as resentful of that. And I think there is to a certain extent, right? Because there's an excitement to being the Flash. There is, you know, there's an element of importance. There's an element of, you know, I'm the guy. And to hand that mantle off to somebody it's an interesting sort of thing. You have to have something to fill that gap. Does that make sense? You know, when you hand your mantle off to somebody else, you have to yourself be able to move on to something that fills that space. It's equally satisfying. Otherwise, you're longing for that piece. And it's intriguing to see this play out here in the way that the dialogue's going and what's going on with this story. I just really, really love the character development. It's organic, feels fresh. I think it appeals to all Flash fans. If you're a Barry guy, you know, or a Barry person, I should say, Barry Allen's your Flash. You've been like, I'm not a Wally person. I haven't, you know, connected with that. Bringing Barry back in now is a great way to connect all readers to this particular Flash universe, all Flash fans, to this particular Flash universe, and make them feel like, hey, there's something for you too here. And we're going to continue on with Barry's story and kind of keep evolving that as well. This is well done, really well done.
Yes. Oh God, yeah. And again, I like how we're seeing how Barry's being manipulated. because with the headaches and this and that, and he kind of snaps at Wally even. It's like, Barry, I was worried about you. He doesn't even get the chance to say worried about you. And he, goes right into, yeah, sure, worried enough to check in on me at least none times every week, And I was like, oh, that's nice. Again, little bit there, like, what's going on here, Because that's not Barry. That's not Barry's personality. What's happening here? Just like with Linda, that's not her personality to feel nothing. She's an emotional person. She's got that power, that energy to her. I love how we're seeing that kind of stuff. And it's, again, and then, of course, without with perfectness, the stillness shows up. I love these guys.
Jim, I think one of the things that when we do this podcast, eventually we're going to make it a video podcast. And I think to protect your anonymity, I think you should be wearing a W.C. Fields mask. I thought that was great. Wait, why did he have that?
See, I took that's Winston Churchill, not W.C. Fields.
Oh, really? Oh, it is.
Okay.
Oh, I guess you're right. It looked kind of like. Do you see where I got the W.C. Fields?
No, I see that as well. Yeah, but when I
no. I'm gonna. It makes, considering that they're in the UK.
Makes more sense.
It makes a ton more sense. I'm gonna go off of that piece. It looks though like a W.C. Fields mask too, but you can make strong arguments as far as I think it's the hat and everything that's making me think that. Which is a Churchill thing too. So let's go off of that piece. I think there's one of the panels where the hat's not really flat. It looks almost all like I'm with you, by the way. I'm gonna completely concede that it's a Winston Churchill mask, but I still want you to wear a W.C. Fields one.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
But I thought that was a really cool piece that he had the mask there. I kept looking for the TARDIS for Doctor Who because this looks so much like a Doctor Who event.
Oh God, yeah. Oh man.
With London and the UK and all those pieces. The stillness keep being this ongoing enigma. I like how at a certain point in time they're turning their backs on the Flashes and having their own conversation that's going there. I mean, that tells you power levels, right? When you're sitting there and you are having a conversation, you're amidst some powerful beings and you're dismissing them, and then they just vanish. And I like how they're like, look, can't we just skip the Dungeon Master crap for 5 minutes and tell me what the hell's going on? And they just vanish. They're like, we're just going to be completely dismissive of you and everything that you're saying. The frustration, the growing frustration that's there. Linda is analyzing the situation like any good wife and partner would. And Pariu's partner, very, very strong there. She's an equal partner there. I think her disconnect is actually hurting her ability, and this is kind of a no-duh, her ability to help him here. Because she could be an effective person to really kind of help him center himself in this. And she's not completely doing nothing, but she's certainly not able to help the way that we know Linda's able to. And it's really subtle, but very well done in the writing, because you've got to do it this way because it explains why Wally's missing it.
Yep. And I loved when Holt calls in another issue, and he's just getting ready to run off, and oh yeah, Linda, yeah, I'm not going to leave you. No, really. And even the little dig where he's like, yeah, we'll get there before Barry does, and they didn't. Barry beat them there. And again, it's just these little connections. What's happening here? Wally should have beat Barry there. Wally is faster than Barry. We know that. But Barry got there first. What's going on with Wally? And I loved the fact that, we've got this thing going on. We've got, and we've got this Archangel there that Barry is actually doing pretty good to holding him back.
Yeah,
you think back to when Wally fought him, that thing was smacking Wally around left and right. Barry's actually doing pretty good to restrain him. It's been about only 5 seconds, but that was 5 seconds longer than what Wally had going on with him.
Yeah, I agree. It's 100% really, really useful as far as what's going on here, and I'm really, really enjoying this piece. Barry showing his effectiveness is something that's critical because you also want to show how Barry's different than Wally. In the sense that Barry has that more of the scientific approach. He's able to talk through those pieces. you want to do that without diminishing what Wally brings to the table. They both have unique strengths. So they did this in a really good way where Barry was showing his competence, his ability to be the Flash, why he's been the guy. And to the point where it actually hits at Wally's confidence. And I liked that duality of the piece where you see the mentor come back. And that's kind of a thing, isn't it? You know, trying a little bit too hard. Going back to Dark Phoenix Saga, we saw it with Charles Xavier, right? When he came back after being away for some time, you could see how, like, now if you got somebody manipulating some of that, that could be kicked up a notch. Gasoline can be thrown on that fire. There's a natural fire there that can be increased. And imagine somebody who's manipulating Charles for that particular circumstance where an already volatile situation now escalates to very, very different levels. And we're starting to see elements of that here, which I think is just really, really cool.
Oh, God, yeah. And it's the debate on whether the stillness is good or evil really does kind of escalate throughout this. Mm-hmm. Because these creatures, you know, I've been calling them archangels. These aren't the actual archangels. These are the uncoiled, you know, and they're parasites, you know, and they're drawn to decay. And what's the decay? Rotting time. So I'm like, this is, you know, really kind of neat going on. The concept of with the Speed Force, with the time, with all these things, these creatures are, you know, time parasites. You know, again, this would make a great Doctor Who story.
Sure.
You know, but I love how they create a weapon to kill the parasites, but they don't give it to Wally. They give it to Barry. And I thought that right there was a really neat, you know, lead into what we get coming down the pipeline. You know, and again, it adds to are these guys evil? Are they good? Are they pure neutral? I don't know anymore.
Yeah, that's something where I actually like not knowing, only because of the fact that I think in not knowing, we're kind of in the same place as the characters.
Yeah. That's
something that I'm just really, really intrigued by. The mystery aspect of this is not overdone. There's suspense. You talked about horror before. My favorite horror is when horror and suspense are mixed. And I feel there is a suspense here that is just going really, really well. Because suspense lends itself better to character development because of the nature of the build of the journey. You're kind of more focused on what is going on and individual characters and how they're reacting to the situation because you're looking for clues. And I feel like this is a story that's naturally lending itself to that. And it's where I think there's a major victory here. Jay showing up with the parents... And it's further broadcasting the fact that, and I think this is a piece that, like, Linda's being manipulated as well because of some of the mistakes Wally's making. I get guilty of this sometimes. I get very busy at work. I get busy, you know, with just doing way too much stuff. Work in particular, though. My job this year, moving to a new school district, the fact that I'm running a department, we're doing a lot of change. I've had to take on a lot of extra duties and things. I'm going to a conference next weekend to present, things like that. Sometimes you just, like, the last thing in the world you want to do when you come home at night is recap. And I'm trying to get better at sharing those pieces because you've got to keep your significant other in the loop. You got to keep friends and family in the loop. And I feel like when I was like reading some of this, I'm like, oh boy, art imitates life. You got to look at that and go, I kind of got to be more vocal. And my wife and I are doing that. We're eating dinner together more and that kind of stuff just to try and make sure we're just having regular communication. We don't have this kind of problem, but boy, you can sure. I take a look at it. I'm kind of going, I'm glad we're eating dinner together a lot more and just having those conversations. Whereas before, it would be she'd get home a little before I would. She'd eat dinner. I'd come home, make a quick dinner, but I'd eat in front of the television. You know, it's just things you do when you're kind of rushed, you know, and kind of like, well, when I eat, I can watch part of this program I want to see and that type of thing. But then you're missing the conversations that you need to have. So, you know, those are things that I'm just trying to do differently now and enjoying. But it's to compensate for stuff like this, where I'm like, oh, I see how you wind up in this spot. Very real. Very, very real. Sometimes unintentionally, without trying to cause a problem, you wind up in this place. And Wally's, I didn't get a chance to tell you, he decided he doesn't want to be a superhero. That was yet another thing that she's finding out that he is not sharing. And there's a Cliff Notes version of being able to tell any situation, but now this is about her son. So what's going on and what's festering inside her that's being manipulated is only being... There's another log on the fire right there. I love that. I just think it's just great, great writing because it feels so real. And they don't have any time to address any of this because of the fact that they're popping back over to Central City. They're in a dangerous situation that their daughter is front and center in. And on the surface, Wally's kind of like, this is no big deal. They seem to be just, frozen in status, just like the people that are in outer space. But the truth comes out that they're being, this is torture, what they're going through. So what their daughter's going through is horrific. They see it on her face. And it could be Irie's powers, where Irie just is a little bit more in tune than some of the people that are there. But their daughter's going through something horrid here. So this gives all the more reason for the Flash to want to take action, for Linda to want to take action, for Jay, everyone to try and do something about this. Them confronting the stillness. And I just loved the urgency of this that comes quickly. Again, this is a couple that needs to take a breath and talk. When? When can they do that? They can't. There is not that opportunity for them to debrief and do the things they need to be a healthy couple, which may have allowed Linda the opportunity to fight against whatever's happening to her. You don't have that at the moment. So everything that's happening is only feeding the beast because they have not had a chance to even try to build off of what Wally was trying to do in their connecting, because it was working to a certain extent, because Linda was able to acknowledge what he was doing and was connecting with it to a certain extent that she was expressing, this is what this normally makes me feel. This is how I want, there's that part of her that wants to touch out and comfort him, or at least recognizes that she should be. And there's a conversation to be had there that never gets to take place. I love that kind of stuff. Really, really well done, because there's so many layers and so many directions that can go. And this is all character development, character drama that this takes the event and makes it personal to Flash. You could have the same event happen in Wonder Woman, Superman, the Bat books. It's going to play out very, very differently because they're different players. That is pure gold when you've got a creative team that understands how to do that.
Yes, and I like the fact that it was Linda because she's his lifeline, and she was able to help pull him into the side suite. Mm-hmm. And when she sees the garden, she starts looking at it. It's Wally who pulls back, possessive of it, kind of like the My Precious, from the Lord of the Rings, where it's mine, And I love the fact that, again, giving us glimpses of, is this really good? Is this evil? Is this something else? I don't know. And I love how the story keeps doing that little, is this good? Is this evil? What is this? And I love how they're playing with that those different kind of concepts of what is good, what is evil here. And we're not 100% certain, where anybody plays out, in the book, And you think back to when the inspector first met Jay, and Jay's like, supervillain. He's like, hey, just chill. Why don't you just reset this concept of supervillain, superhero, and just have a conversation? That kind of stuff is going on here as well. Let's just chill. Let's just relook at what is actually good and evil here.
Yeah. It's something that it blows my mind. Just this story has just got me thinking a lot, and I love this kind of stuff where you in rereads you're going down another avenue, another path, and you're thinking it through, and that's something that's just great storytelling. We do see this piece again during the stillness where we get those white dialogue balloons And it really is a great way to show a distance from emotion. This time it's revolving around kind of speaking about the stillness, right? They don't need to speak, the wife, the husband, they both know. Though it burns her so deeply she could vomit magma, though it scalds her mind like the shrilling of pipes every night in her dreams, though she cannot raise a sob to show it, they both know why. Today, one hero is faster than another. And you're just like seeing those pieces and those reactions to the situation. It's clinical, right?
Yep.
And there's an interesting choice in how they are using sometimes black and white, just straight up boxes to show something much more in a clinical fashion than an emotional fashion. I just really, really love that.
Oh God, yeah. And again, it furthers the whole story of separating the family. She's his, she's his lifeline, but she's slowing him down. That's why, Barry got there first, because the connections, all that is slowing him down. And I love that was the lead into the final confrontation between Barry and Wally. Just that notion as he's running off into that thinking, my family is slowing me down. Whereas it's always been the Flash family is what gives you strength, is what makes you go faster, is what makes you a better hero, is your family. He's now starting to have the notions of your family is slowing you down. And I love that.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah, and again, let me clarify. I love that because it shows the great trap that's being played on him.
Right.
The way the villains are manipulating the situation. It's not, I'm not saying, it's good for the Flash. No, it's not. It's horrible. It's the last thing he needs to do. He needs to embrace his family. He needs to run. He needs to run with the Flash family. They need to fight as one unit. That's his true strength. But I love the fact that it's been over 6 issues building to this notion that they're slowing you down.
Yeah. That's a piece where the family's going to have to address that at a certain point in time. Even they're seeing it that way. Like Linda is starting to see it that way. The seeds of disconnect are being presented in a two-way fashion that is really interesting. The stabbing piece when it takes place with Barry. And not really Barry, it's Barry being controlled. The stabbing piece is incredibly interesting because the question becomes: is Wally alive? Is Wally dead? What is going on there? It breeds this piece of the Crown of Thawns when they're talking about that. I did not see Thawne coming. I did not see it being Reverse Flash that was driving this whole piece. I feel like I should have, but it's this whole team being put together that is helping to unfold. This is a brand new villain group that every one of them has been escalated. It's just so cool. What the Crown of Thawne is, the Crown of Thawns is, and who's involved in it is as far as what makes that happen, just has me so critically intrigued. This story, wrapping up the first 6 issues, the first arc of this story is something that's really, really special. And this is a book that needs to be noticed. And it's one of the reasons why we did this arc. We want to make sure as a podcast, Jim and I are doing a lot of exploration of classic stories. We're doing a lot of exploration of arcs. And we're going to be jumping between new arcs, old arcs, across companies, as we go forward, just to be able to talk about story. And I do feel like it was funny and I referenced it multiple times during this particular episode, doing a classic story like the Dark Phoenix saga so recently, and taking a look at what works there in that type of storytelling. Then you come back and take a look at today to a writer who's been obviously influenced by a lot of storytelling. Spurrier's been around for quite some time doing amazing storytelling. To be able to pull all of Cy's own storytelling into this, but also influences. We all are driven by our influences and what we've read, what we've been exposed to growing up, is really apparent in this work. And it leads to something feeling new and feeling fresh, which I say it's hard to do in comics. I think what it is the writers I'm most drawn to are the ones that are able to do this. Because they keep you feeling like we've got forward movement, like we're getting something with a little bit different. We're playing around with the toys. This is a series that I've always loved the Flash, especially since Mark Waid's run. Mark Waid's run really is where I became a Flash fan. So it's now been, about 35 years that I've been, pretty much a diehard Flash fan. And this series hitting how it is has just got me smiling. I love that you're connecting with the Flash in this way too. You've done it for years in our podcast, but I'm saying, it's been nice watching your journey where it's fun seeing a reader attached to it from a different angle. You've come from a different place. It's funny, Bart was your Flash, right?
Yeah.
So
Bart was my Flash, and then Barry won me over, and then Wally won me over, and now Thunderheart, man. I'm like, Thunder. Thunder. I'm all in on her. She is awesome.
Yeah, this has been a great story to do.
We are Crystal Men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. We are part of an amazing Facebook group community, and those are all ways you can contact us directly and share your thoughts on the podcast. RagingBullets.com is our show website. That feeds into X, formerly known as Twitter. It feeds into our Facebook fan page. We also are available in the About Us section where you can connect with us on gaming platforms and other social media sites. If you want to connect with us, we want to connect with you. I'm also a regular co-host on Is It Jaws? It comes out twice a month. Paul Spataro was kind enough to have me join that. It's a film review podcast. So if you're enjoying film, please feel free to check out Is It Jaws? Links are always in the show notes, just because I want to shout that podcast out. I'm real proud of the work there. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seglin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have DC vs. Vampires World War V, Part 1 of 6, 40% off, only $2.99, as well as some really cool-looking variant covers. So thank you, DCBS.
As I mentioned at the top of the show over at InStockTrades.com, Secret 6 by Gail Simone, Omnibus Hardcover Volume 1. $125, regularly 50% off, only $62.50. It's a great way to get this if you've never read it before. And if you have, it's an amazing way to have these issues collected. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode is actually something that Jim and I threw out very early on in talking about what we might want this second season to look like. And very similar to what we've done with when we were straight up DC, we want to make sure we're exploring some characters that we don't have a strong background with. One of them that we threw out there was Beta Ray Bill. So we're going to take a look back at the origin of Beta Ray Bill, which was from the Thor series, issues number 337 to 340. This is available in multiple collections. It's also available on the Marvel app. So however you want to interact with it, it's easy to get a hold of this particular series right now and join us. But we're either going to do a 1 or 2 part discussion. Really, it's going to be driven by the nature of when we read the issues, what that conversation is going to look like. But that's our next review, and we're going to be talking about that starting next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we
fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think we did it right there.
Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.